Let's start with a significant game at Wembley as England host Ukraine on what is sure to be an emotional occasion. England are looking to make it 2 wins from 2 in European qualifying, and our senior reporter Rob Dorset joined us on set along with Ukraine football journalist Andrew Todos. Hello to both of you. Rob, let's just start with that team selection news and James Maddison coming in.
Yeah, and it's a big news. Look, I mean, this isn't just a discussion about, OK, Maddison gets the nod ahead of Phil Foden or Jack Grealish. This is his first England start that we expect James Maddison to make this afternoon. There were widespread calls for him to be included in the World Cup squad, of course, in Qatar, and he was. But then he arrived in camp with an injury and didn't play a single minute in that game. But the way I understand it is that it was a big plus for James Maddison, with Gareth Southgate and the rest of the coaching set up at England, the way he behaved while he was in Qatar, off the pitch. He was very supportive of the rest of his teammates. He never moaned. His strong personality, which I think comes across to everybody, such a likeable guy, helped the whole mood in the camp. And so even though he wasn't playing out in the World Cup, that really impressed Gareth Southgate. And his performances in training in the last week have really impressed Southgate as well. And he's going to get his chance, we believe. And it's not before time, is it? He's 26 years old. He made his debut back in 2019 when he came on as a second-half substitute. And he played only 35 minutes in that game, and that was a friendly against Montenegro. So this is a big game for him. This is a big opportunity for him. It's a big, big stage in a European Championship qualifier. Can he take his chance? Can he keep the form that he's been showing for Leicester in the Premier League and put it and replicate it on the international stage? That's the big question today.
Yeah, and that form this season, as you can see, pretty good for Leicester. So Maddison starting. It may have been Marcus Rashford, but he's not fit. Looks like he's had a little holiday during this break. Has Gareth Southgate got any problems with that? A lot of
supporters do, and I think that the media have made a lot of it. Southgate hasn't, but let me try and explain the background to this for you, because there was some apparent criticism of Marcus Rashford from the England manager in the build-up to the Italy game on Thursday night. Southgate was asked, I think by the BBC, are you missing Marcus Rashford? Is it a shame he's not here? And Southgate's reply was, you can't miss what you haven't had. And what he was referring to there is the fact that Rashford has withdrawn from 5 of the last 6 England squads outside of tournaments because of various reasons, but normally injury. And so it did seem to be a bit of a veiled pop from Gareth Southgate at Rashford to say, you know, you don't seem as though you're really committed. He was asked about that by the newspapers last night in the build-up to this game, and he played it all down and said, there's no issue between me and Marcus Rashford. He's not here. He needs some time off. If he's in America having a nice time relaxing, I've got no problem with that at all. But it just hints, I think, at a little bit of tension behind the scenes that Marcus Rashford, who's been extraordinary for Manchester United this season, I think, is it 27 goals he scored for United this season, that he is not available for England when Southgate fully expects that he'll be available for Manchester United's first game back after this international break. And
Andrew, we're going to get to Ukraine in just a moment, but another one on team selection, Rob. Might Southgate be tempted to make more changes?
I think he will in the midfield, because I think Calvin Phillips has only played 55 minutes of football in the Premier League in the whole of this season for Manchester City, and he played 90 minutes for England the other day in Italy. I just don't think it's physically possible for him to do a full 90 again 3 days later. So that's the question for Maddison. Is Maddison going to be as part of a midfield 3, maybe as the advanced number 10, if you like, or is he going to be on the left wing? I suspect he'll be on the left wing, and that Southgate will go for definitely Declan Rice, definitely Jude Bellingham, if he's overcome that knee problem he had that saw him limp off against Italy in the first game. And we saw him train yesterday, and he looked fine, by the way, Bellingham. So I expect it to be Rice and Bellingham, and probably Jordan Henderson alongside them as well, who's got over his bout of illness and trained fully in the last few days. So if he does go with the midfield 3, I'd expect it to be those 3. And he's got a decision to make a left-back as well, with Luke Shaw suspended, having been sent off against Italy. Is it Ben Chilwell? Is it Kieran Trippier? Interestingly, he brought Kieran Trippier on when Shaw got sent off. He turned to Trippier, his experienced and reliable left-back, even though he's a right-back, rather than Ben Chilwell. I think if Chilwell doesn't get a start today, there'll be quite a few fans, Chelsea and elsewhere, who'll be a bit disappointed that Ben Chilwell doesn't get a start.
Yeah, there will be. Right, Andrew, Ukraine, what can we expect from the team tonight?
To be honest, it's all a bit of a surprise, because Ukraine have got a brand new manager, caretaker manager, who only got in the job last month. He's currently juggling 2 other jobs as well at the same time. He's Ukraine under-21 manager and UPL side Alexandria manager. So he's essentially only had 7 days with the team. They've been training at Brentford all week. They had a friendly against Brentford B behind closed doors as well on Thursday, which Ukraine won 2-0 and played 2 different 11s in each half. So at the moment we are a bit none the wiser exactly what we can expect, but I assume that it won't be too different from what we've seen maybe in the past year, where Ukraine maybe set up 4-2, 3-1, something similar to what Gareth Southgate might even be going for.
And where there is a lot of focus on Mudryk, isn't there? And you secured an exclusive interview with him. Let's hear what he had to say.
A lot of pressure, but it's not for the first time. I like this pressure because one day that guy who said I'm a loser, one day he will say I'm winner. Time will tell.
What's your relationship like with Alexander Zinchenko? You both live in London, of course. Are you too close? Has he helped you settle in?
He helped me a lot. I like him so much, and we often jokes about Arsenal, Chelsea, and what color is in London. But I like this guy. He's very funny, very kind guy. We spent with him some time and always in positive vibe.
And what colour is London? What colour is London?
Blue.
How was he then, Andrew?
Yeah, he's quite a reserved character, but I mean, I guess sometimes when you're billed to be such a superstar, you might have to be a bit focused on your game. I feel that he is motivated. He said that he wasn't, but I'm sure that he is motivated to play extra well tonight to try and get the eyes of England on him after maybe not the best start at Chelsea. And he said it's been a bit of a tough time, but he was quite happy to get that assist against Leicester a few weeks ago, and even smirked when I mentioned that, because I think it sort of lifted that off his shoulders, and there were lots of things on social media being said about that. So I think he sort of unlocked that. He's most likely going to start tonight, which is rare over the past few months that Graham Potter's not given him that. So he's just got to take the opportunity, and fingers crossed he can put a good performance in.
So that's Mudryk, but Rob, you sat down with Vitaly Mykolenko. Let's listen to how he's looking forward to playing at Wembley.
Я буду перший раз грати на Вемблі і
It's going to be my first time in Wembley, but it is always pleasant to come to the location and train with your team and then play with your team and represent your country on such an arena. It is going to be just a month after the anniversary, after the war started, so I'm hoping that we'll be playing well and we'll show our people and our fighters will be watching our game, and will be shows them and provide reassurance and shows them that together we can achieve anything.
любого суперника.
Yeah, quite interesting what he was saying there about what's going on in the country, Andrew. It does seem like it could be a special occasion tonight.
Absolutely. I think there's 1,000 refugees, and their sponsors have been invited by the FA especially, so they're going to be in the ground. A lot of them will be seeing their first ever football match at Wembley, and possibly even their first ever Ukraine game. So that's going to be a special occasion. On top of that, there should be around 4,000, maybe a bit more in total, Ukraine fans, and they're ready to make a bit of noise and thank as well the British public for the support that Britain has given Ukraine in particular over the past 13 months, which I'm sure it will be a very emotional occasion.
It's interesting because we asked Gareth Southgate about that yesterday, and there's a new Gareth Southgate at the moment which is focusing on football. He doesn't want to get drawn into the wider political and moral debates, which he's spoken an awful lot about in his time as England manager. But he did say they've got huge sympathy and solidarity with the Ukrainian players and the Ukrainian team. But he also says we want to show them the utmost respect. They're a proper team. These are a threat to England, and we want to try and beat them on the football pitch. So it's that balancing act, I think, from the FA's perspective and Southgate's perspective. Whilst, there's the very welcoming gesture that the FA have done with bringing 1,000 refugees from Ukraine into the game for free and making them special guests. That's off the pitch. On the pitch, Gareth Southgate wants England to be professional and try and beat Ukraine.
Andrew, the war is never far from anyone's mind, obviously. You mentioned there 13 months now. What is the reality like for the players and the staff?
It's difficult. In Ukraine, the Ukrainian Premier League, for example, restarted in the summer. And it's essentially you're playing games where there's the risk of them being interrupted by air raid sirens. And once that happens, the referee pauses the game. Everyone in the stadium, so it's only just media, staff and that kind of thing, because fans aren't allowed, goes down to the bomb shelters, waits it out, and then, you know, that could be half an hour, it could be 2 hours, could be multiple times in one game, come out, and then they resume the game. So there's been some Ukrainian Premier League matches that have taken on like 4.5 hours long. And then on top of that, they got to travel when they need to leave the country. There's no flights. So Ukraine, for example, a lot of the staff live in Kiev. They had to get an overnight train to the Polish border town, then a coach to Rzeszów Airport in Poland, and then fly to Stansted, and then even from Stansted to get to Brentford, where they're based. That's a long enough journey as itself.
It's really strange because, I mean, Andrew and I have been talking about this a lot, and whilst England were playing Italy in Naples in front of nearly 80,000 people, you know, an elite top-class game, Ukraine were playing at Brentford's B-side in a friendly. They haven't got together since September. This is the first time they've been together as a team since September,
6 months.
isn't it? You know, because obviously they didn't make it to the World Cup, they lost to Wales. So it is an extraordinary story. And Andrew and I have worked on a documentary together, Ukraine A Year On, which you can still see on demand and via our digital platforms. And for example, Tom, we spoke to Jure Vernidub, the Krivbas manager, who's in the Ukrainian Premier League, who gave up that role to fight on the front line. And then he was told by various officials and high-ranking people that they wanted him to come back and take charge of football because they wanted some normality. They wanted the people to have football for some normality and something they could grasp onto amidst all the turmoil and hurt in the country. We spoke to Sergei Stakhovsky, the former world top 20 tennis player, and I interviewed him while there was gunshots and drones flying over his head while he was training. He was in full military fatigue, and he said he has no problem killing Russians because he's seen what they've done to his people. And I'm sorry, I know that's very shocking to hear on a Sunday lunchtime, but that's the reality of what we're talking about here. While we're talking about a football match going on at Wembley, that's the reality for the Ukrainian people, and indeed some of Ukraine's top sports stars as well. So if you get a spare half an hour, it'd be worth checking out that documentary, because Andrew had an awful lot to do with setting up a lot of people on there and giving us all the background for it.
And you also spoke to Andrei Shevchenko as well. We can listen to part of that conversation.
I was very close, about 2,000 meters from strike. That was the place when I was close, one of the electric central. And like we all know, the Russian tried to hit all the critical infrastructure, and that was the target. And the feeling was very strong.
Were you you must have been terrifying. Can you remember how you felt at the time?
No, you know, when you move in, when I moved to the war zone, I know it could happen, but it's incredible feeling when you go there, because the people even is suffering, but very united. We know what we have to do. We know how we can survive, and we just have to be cooperate. We have to be united together, and this is what people do.
Andrei Shevchenko there, Ukraine's most famous sportsman. He was part of our documentary, and I think summing up where we're at here, and just to emphasise the politics, you know, whilst we're talking about Ukraine and their lack of preparation and them playing England at Wembley in front of a packed house today, the Football Union of Russia are playing their first game today since the war started. They're playing a friendly...
First game at home?
Yeah. Yeah, first one at home, yeah. In a friendly against Iraq. Their first home game since the war started. So you can't separate the politics, you can't separate the reality of what's happening in Ukraine from what we're going to see on the pitch at Wembley today.